The 2026 season is just around the corner, and with that a whole host of questions will be answered, including how many times will we hear
Hyperia is currently
and
Wise dragons.
oh wait, you can't hear that anymore. Anyway, so yeah, we'll be going through the 7 major theme parks in the UK and discussing how they will get on in the 2026 season, including any rides they may add or any rides they may remove, and we'll just kind of a general kind of overview of how I think it is going to go. So if you do enjoy this video, then please subscribe, but greatly appreciated, and let's go on with the video. So we're going to start with Alton Towers. Now Alton Towers are adding one new ride for this year, and that is Bluey the Ride Return of the Grannies, or something like that. I don't really know. So I wouldn't say this is a major addition, but it's not too bad. Obviously, you know, people have been crying out for Alton Towers to, you know, remove Rita, you know, like replace Galactica or something like that. But we have to think Merlin have lost like £700 million in the last like 2 years, so I don't think anything like that is going to be happening in the future. Now, if you have had a look at Theme Park Worldwide video on how he would fix Alton Towers, then I do suggest you have a look at that because it's very interesting. But I do think that, obviously, you know, you have David Walliams, and obviously, you know, the incidents that are surrounding him is obviously going to not be around for much longer, so I think that definitely has to go. So that's probably going to be the last year of that, considering how many years the IP has on it or something like that. So yeah, I think Alton Towers is going to have a steady year. I think it's not going to be very dramatic with the new Bluey ride opening, but I don't think they're going to announce anything either. It's just going to be a nice solid year for Alton Towers, I think. So yeah, that's my overview of that. Now the next part we're going to talk about is Thorpe Park. Now Thorpe Park aren't adding anything this year apart from starting construction of the new kind of chill, I don't really know what to call it, just kind of a chill hangout area where the big part of the beach was. So that should be quite nice. There aren't really many areas in Thorpe Park where you can just kind of, like, you know, relax and whatever without the kind of trains of coasters going by you and stuff. So yeah, I think it's going to be quite a nice addition when it actually gets built. But yeah, I don't really have much to say about Thorpe Park really. Although I actually do. Hang on. Not in terms of ride openings, but in terms of ride removals. Because as shown by ride comparisons, we can see that Rumba Rapids boats have been basically taken somewhere else apparently. And also the pumps have been kind of, pumps obviously like run the water and stuff. They haven't been put back into place yet, so that gives me the idea. If you add that with the fact that you can't see the boats, it gives me the impression that the ride, especially if you think about the fact that it hasn't been on the app and it closed early last year for some weird reason for winter maintenance when it hasn't even opened. So yeah, I just don't think that's going to be opening anytime soon, even if ever, because, you know, it is a massive plot and I would love to see something better, like, you know, a tavern or something like that. And this is just me like wishful thinking, but, you know, given Merlin's budget, I doubt they're going to do anything that big. But, you know, so I think that they could do something a lot better with that area if they do decide to close it permanently. But, you know, there have been heavy rumours with good evidence, to be fair, to be backed the fact that Rumba Rapids could close permanently. But another ride I would also like to talk about is The Walking Dead. Now, we do have to think about the fact that The Walking Dead is now 8 years old. And if you think about how old the ride system is, the ride system is probably about, I think it's like 30 years. So, you know, you have to think about how many years that realistically has left. So, you know, obviously everyone talks about the X should return or whatever, but, you know, X has had its, like, you know, lifespan. It was a good ride, but if they were going to like close Walking Dead, they would just demolish the whole thing. They wouldn't retheme it to something else, given the fact that the ride is really old and stuff. So if you consider like how big that plot area is, including the building and stuff as well, they have a lot of space to do something else that is better with it. But yeah, I think unless they decide to kind of do something with Ghost Train as well. I mean, even though Ghost Train is like 3 years old, no one likes it anymore. I did it once, it was alright. But yeah, I don't think anyone is going to rush back to that anytime soon. So yeah, those 3 rides are basically just like the main talking point of Thorpe Park at the moment. and also Zodiac as well. Four rides. So yeah, Zodiac, Walking Dead, Ghost Train, Rumble Rapids are all kind of in the balance, I guess. Rumble Rapids is probably more kind of closing than opening. The others are probably a bit still on the balance, I guess. But yeah, you know, I think Thorpe Park are kind of, because, you know, they have Lost City, which is kind of a very old area, which has a lot of very old flat rides. Like Vortex was opening, like Vortex, Rush, I know Samurai's in Lost City, but, you know, Samurai, Detonator, that also is in Lost City. You know, Quantum, they were all opened in like the 2000s, so, you know, they're basically like approaching the end of their life, so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with those. But yeah, that's in terms of how they get on in the year and whether they break down or whatever, because obviously if you think about Rush, that's probably the oldest sky swinger there is now. I could be wrong, but yeah, I think because, you know, there are so many better sky swingers out there now. So, you know, we'll have to see what happens with all of these old rides and whether they stay or not. But yeah, that's my vision for Thorpe Park. Not going to be a very exciting year, I think. Just going to be see what's getting removed and what stays and whatever. So the third park is Chessington World of Adventures. Now, obviously, Chessington are one of the busier parks this year, opening their Paw Patrol land. Now, I will have to say I did watch Paw Patrol a lot when I was younger. So I have a lot of nostalgia with the slide. I'll probably go on the slide, even though I'm like 17 years old at this point. But so yeah, I'll definitely be having a go on that if I'm allowed, and it's quiet and there's no kids to like kind of steal the space in the queue off. But you know, so yeah, I think it's going to be really. Obviously, I miss Scorpion Express and kind of that whole Mexicano area. But if you think about the fact that Scorpion Express has been closed for like 2 years. But obviously, Runaway Train was an opening day attraction, and so it was obviously going to come to its end of its life at some point. But yeah, so in terms of other kind of news in terms of what's going on at Chessington, we have two major talking points. No, I guess you could say three. So one of them is obviously Minecraft being built. That is obviously a very big addition. We'll have to see how the construction goes in the year, and when they announce the new kind of rides and names and stuff, and then obviously the theme is Minecraft, but you know how it's all going to be set out and stuff in like when obviously we had the basic plans, but not actually like what the detail and stuff. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then also have to think about the Gruffalo. Now the Gruffalo is presumably on a 10-year lease, or 5 years that should be renewed. So obviously, if it's on a 5-year like repeated, then obviously you have 5 years from 2017 to 2021, and then the 5 years from 2022 to 2026. So it will be interesting to see whether they renew that again, or whether they retheme it something else. Because if you think about it, the Gruffalo is, I wouldn't say outdated, but it's definitely on the kind of, I don't know, I don't know, they'll probably keep it, but you never know at this point. I mean, some of the effects haven't been working, but it's just, that's just how it is with any ride, really. It's off and on, you know. So yeah, that'll be interesting as well. And then also Vampire, we don't know what's going to happen with that. Whether it decides to stay, or obviously it will stay, but like whether it will get retracked or whatever. But I'm guessing they'll do that somewhere later down the line, because it's not looking too bad. Also, yeah, another obviously is Tiger Rock. Now Tiger Rock, I think, you know, it's a very controversial ride, I reckon. Because obviously a lot of people say, oh, it should go, it's rubbish, and then a lot of people are like, oh no, it's a really good flume ride, we'll offload it immediately. But you know, I think that, you know, if Minecraft does come in and do well, it will obviously be like very encouraging for the park to expand the area into Tiger Rock, because obviously Tiger Rock is a massive plot of land. They could do so much more with that, because obviously there aren't any tigers anymore, and so what's the point of the ride, really? So you know, they could decide to keep the ride system and then just theme it to, like, I don't know what they could theme water to in Minecraft, to be honest. But you know, we'll have to see what happens. Maybe the theme it's like logboat style, I don't know. But you know, so yeah, we'll have to see what happens with Tiger Rock. I mean, obviously it's been looking very very worn recently, so I don't think that's going to be around for too much longer. But you know, I think Chessington will be a very talked about park in terms of additions or removals and whatever. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one to see. So the fourth park is going to be Legoland Windsor. Now obviously Legoland aren't actually adding anything new for this year either, but I think Legoland is kind of, I don't know, it's on a bit of a just kind of a stale kind of state at the moment, because obviously you have kind of Heart Lake City, which is kind of a bit dead, considering the fact that there are no shows on the lake anymore. So you know, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. And then also you have obviously the Viking River Splash, which has been closed for like two and a half years now, with nothing happening to it. So it'll be interesting to see if that gets like removed anytime soon, or whether it's going to stay SBNO. But yeah, I think they could do with the Master of Spin Jitsu ride that is in China, going in that. That'd be very nice, because Legoland needs another coaster, because obviously you have Minifigure Speedway, the Dragon, that's about it. So you need something a bit more thrilling, I think. But you know, and then also you have kind of the whole kind of area of what's it called? The pirate area, because obviously the pirate area has been very kind of construction fenced recently. I don't know whether that's just winter maintenance, and I'm just completely yapping. But I think the Viking area is, sorry, not the Viking area, the pirate area is a bit old at this point. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that and the rest of the park, considering it hasn't had really that many updates apart from, like, you know, Ninjago. Because if you think about it, the Egyptian kind of area is still there from ages ago. I guess Mythica as well, but that's relatively new. So you know, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Legoland, to be honest, because you know they haven't really been adding much recently, apart from like Minifigure Speedway. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that park. So yeah. Now the fifth park is going to be Drayton Manor. Now obviously Drayton Manor aren't actually getting anything for this year either, but I think it'll be interesting to see, because you know, obviously you have. They recently added Gold Rush, and you know they rethemed the Wave and whatever. So I don't think they're kind of going to be having a very busy year this year either. Although there have been kind of speculations over what's happening to kind of the Flying Dutchman, and like, because obviously Accelerator's kind of a bit half themed, because you still got the green track, but then you also got kind of the outside of the station kind of themed with the Frontier Falls. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, to be honest. I don't really think that it's going to be changing that much anytime soon, with the kind of new additions and removals and whatever, in terms of how the whole kind of park landscape is going to work. But you know, it'll be interesting to see whether they kind of bring back Pirates 4D or whatever. I doubt it. Not for Pirates Event, Pirate Adventure. But yeah, so obviously that is a massive show that's just been like kind of abandoned for years at this point. So obviously the ride system is still in there, so you know they could just fix it up a bit and then reopen it, but I don't know if they have the budget for that or whatever. But I think in terms of, it's been a good few years for Looping Group, I reckon, because when I last went in 2021 it was really bad and there was like nothing to do. Then Drayton Manor changed it and they haven't been back since, so I don't know if it's like gotten really good or whatever, but people have been saying it's been good. So yeah, that's kind of, I don't really have much of an input on Drayton Manor because I haven't been there in ages, but so yeah, that's just kind of my general overview of how I interpret things, basically. So the penultimate park is going to be Paulton's Park. Now this is the busiest park of 2026, because obviously they're opening their new ride, Valgard. No, their new area Valgard, not the new ride. Their new rides are Drakon and Raven and Wild Swing. But obviously Raven is just a retheme of Cobra, so I guess you can't really count it as a new ride. But yeah, I think Drakon is going to be one of the best kind of family thrill coasters in the UK, considering it's kind of going to be kids first kind of thrill ride and whatever. It's going to be really nicely themed, and also think about it's going to be kind of intertwined with Raven, so it's going to be really nice kind of kinetic energy, if that's what you want to call it. And also in terms of outside the area, I mean, I guess but I guess it's not really outside the area. But you also have the new ride for 2027, which we are presuming is a water ride, and so obviously again they're gonna announce what that is at the Superfans Day, which they do every year. I will not be going because I have A levels to revise for. I know I would have gone anyway, totally. But you know, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Because people are saying it's going to be like a water coaster, but whatever. But I doubt they have the space for water coaster, so it'll be really interesting to see what they do with that plot of land that was previously held by the go-kart track. So yeah, I think that kind of whole side of Poulton is going to be like rejuvenated, because that was the area that everyone thought like, oh, it needs changing or whatever, but they are changing it, and it's been really good to see the transformation. I haven't been to Poulton Park in a few years either, but I would be much more willing to go to Poulton's than Drayton, considering Poulton's has opened a lot more and it is also closer for me. So it's just better in general. So I think Poulton's is going to be definitely the park that has the most upward trajectory, I reckon, in the next few years, considering you have the big old Universal coming in. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with all that. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens. So the final park I want to talk about is Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Now obviously they are opening their brand new Invictus Gyro Swing for this year, which is a major flat ride which should draw in the GP. So I think it's a very good addition for Blackpool Pleasure Beach. You think about kind of their ride lineup and how kind of their big kind of star attraction is. I guess it could be the big one, or it could be Icon, because obviously Icon is more tailored toward like the thuzies and like the kind of enthusiasts. They're the same thing. But you know, like people that want like a more relaxing experience. But then you also have like the big one, which is more like, oh my god, it's 213 feet, and you know, it's kind of that kind of star, like, you know, people see it as they walk in and stuff. So you know, they have kind of two big attractions, but then adding this kind of Invictus kind of gyro swing is going to really kind of complete the lineup, I guess, because you have obviously a few like big coasters, but they're all a bit kind of old, and obviously because it is old park. But I think it'll be really good to see kind of a major flat ride come in, because obviously you only have the kind of launch pad and stuff. Sorry, PlayStation the ride. But you know, I think it'll just be a really good addition, because obviously it'll change the skyline and stuff. And obviously we haven't had a big gyro swing like this in the UK, apart from like Maelstrom, I guess, but that's kind of half the size. And also Cyclades, to be fair, but that's also smaller. But you know, I think also in terms of kind of other areas of the park, you have kind of TLC issues, I guess, in some places, like River Cage, for example, like that's been dealing with a few like TLC issues. And then I don't know. I think obviously because Blackpool is an old park, so they obviously have to kind of keep their kind of rides in shape more, I guess. But obviously they have the new rides that maybe should draw in a few more people, and obviously because they closed a few rides for the whole of last year, like Red Arrow Skyforce, the Carousel, and the tracked kind of ride next to Avalanche. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with those rides and whether they close or reopen and stuff. Because obviously if they have to close rides for a whole year, they obviously are having issues with kind of cash flow and whatever. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with how many visitors the new ride will draw in, and you know, whether that will get Blackpool to open a new coaster, whether that will be somewhere in the park, because you know they are good at just placing coasters randomly in places where they shouldn't be able to fit a new coaster, like Icon. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens with that park. So yeah, and so that brings me to the end of this video. If you did enjoy, then I hope you subscribe. But yeah, that was kind of an overview of how I think each park's 2026 is going to go. Obviously I kept it very brief at some points, because obviously I'm not a fortune teller. I do not know what Alton Towers could blow up. I have no idea. But you know, we have to see what happens with all of the parks, and whether all of them are able to keep up with Universal and how that construction goes, and whether all of them start panicking and building RMCs. Oh my god. But you know, I doubt that is going to happen. Maybe they will save their investments like 2029 and stuff, when they're all like, oh my god, we're going to build an RMC now. Universal, what are you going to do? But you know, we'll have to see. And maybe Merlin won't exist, and then maybe Almark won't exist either, and then the world will be okay. But you know, we'll have to see what happens. So if you did enjoy, then subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheerio.